Well, there we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jacked Ramsays Live Mailbag Show. Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague, and of course, my little video thing decided it wanted to be very difficult as it got moved around. Let's try adjusting this again. Nothing like producing on the fly. You know, I love it. It's the absolute best.
I love that it happens right as we go live.
Yeah, it does. It's always, that's how it goes. It is a lunchtime mailbag special. I don't know about you, Brandon. I had a nice lunch. I had a nice little jerk chicken sandwich because I was looking around the house. I'm like, what can I make? And I was like, oh, I have some chicken marinating in the fridge with this delicious, delicious jerk chicken sauce. So now the puppy was very occupied, but now that we're live, now she wants to be in Dad's lap because that's how this always works.
Didn't so much do a lunch, more did like a brunch. Ended up doing it was a ramen, like a beef flavored ramen with Spam and an over and easy egg with green onion.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, it's
a good go-to.
That's not. I mean, you're not struggling by any means there.
No, I was incredibly happy with the end result there, and obviously pretty excited to eat it because I knew we had the podcast coming up. So. Look at us. We're riding the high of good food.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Trox says, Danny, that jerk chicken bagel looked amazing. Yeah, it was so good I put it on Instagram.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Doubly nice to see D and B. All right. I mean, we can go with that. I'll let it slide.
D and B?
I'll tell you what I'm not going to let slide anymore. I told my wife I was going to let my hair grow out and like really let it grow out. I'm to the point of like, nope. As soon as we get done here, I'm going to go get a cut.
Yeah, I always say that too. I'm like, I'm only gonna have hair for so long. I'm gonna grow it out, and then it gets long, and I'm like, this looks awful. I'm cutting it.
The awful stage is so difficult to get through, which is
it's so bad.
I think that's a very choice, comparison for the Trailblazers right now. They're in their awkward stage. They're growing it out. The realization of like, I want to grow it out. Do you?
Well, you're growing it out, and then you've got some people that are like, this Jerami Grant, I don't know if I want to really do this. I am not sure. Or over here, you're like, should we trade Dame and play the young guys next year? I don't know.
And then you just go and, screw it. I'm going to get the undercut and grow out a mullet. So we're not quite there yet, but it's certainly a lot there. I think I had 40 questions come in.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was scrolling through it earlier, and I'm like, there is a lot of questions coming in here. I've got a bit of agenda, kind of just working through everything here. Jeremy Kirklow says, bless the background photos. So troll. And for those that are listening later or on the podcast version, I may or may not have typed Nurk or Hart's photo of Nurk, Grant, and Hart post-game the other night and made it the background for this. So
I mean, come on, that was as much tampering as you could possibly get.
Players can't tamper.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh? It's just the teams and agencies,
executives,
right?
Yeah,
that's right.
So players can't tamper. For
they
those
were tampering the hell away yesterday in that post game for sure.
Yes, and for those wondering about the tappering that's going on, Brandon's having some work done on his roof. So
yes, yeah, I'm getting a new roof right now. So sorry, it's gonna be happening the entire show.
It's just kind of tune it out. That's kind of where we're at.
I'll mute the mic when I'm not talking.
No, you're fine. It's barely coming through. So, yeah, my man needs the fresh fade. Yeah, no, I do. And Gabe says, did you see my question earlier? Gabe, like I said, I have 40 questions. If it's in there, it's in there. I don't know. I haven't got that all the way through. That's kind of where we're at right now. It was named 11th pick from Nola, and we trade that and Bledsoe and a second for Jerami Grant, and then our pick ends up being 7th, and we trade that for OG Anunoby. I don't think the Raptors would do that.
That would make no sense for Toronto to abandon the young nucleus with OG.
Especially when OG looks like, second coming of Kawhi.
I mean, if anything, they're trading Pascal, and then you just keep going, but you get OG. You've got
Scotty
and
Scotty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I I would sit with that. I'm just going to go through these as they kind of came in. So there's some older ones in here that I'm going to start with. And this one from Ian Fowler is good. It's very dumb, but also very good at the same time. He said, if you were hired to sing a Nationwide On Your Side commercial, which style would you do? Metal, rap, electro, pop, grunge, or butt rock?
Rap.
I think I'd have to go with like metal.
Why?
Because I can do like a screamo voice. Something like that. This is, go.
Nationwide is on your side.
Exactly. I could grab the guitar and have a little bit of fun with that. And by the way, Nationwide is not a sponsor of this show, but it will be eventually, I'm sure. They sponsor everything. Should we get into the Jerami Grant stuff like right away? Because I think it's what's kind of carrying the day, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Jerami Grant with the Shams article, and then we see the post game with Hart and Nurk, and I think it's a pretty big thing for Blazer fan right now.
Okay, this is kind of a frame on that. This is from Rip City at Rip City on they. Does jumping into the top 3 in the draft make it more likely we make the Grant move or less likely? The fit of him next to one of the top 3 power forwards seems a bit off, but the need for a second lottery pick if you draft in the top 3 also reduces unless someone great drops. This is why I think there's a situation where you don't care. You're just trying to add talent. I think that's something the Blazers are trying to do. But also, we talked about this the other day, Brandon, during the live watch party. What is kind of going on organizationally with the Trailblazers? They are cleaning house, where was once a team not run by, but quasi, very much linked to Mark Bartelstein clients. Now, you've got Clutch, who is trying to put their claws into Portland, in Chauncey Billups, and Yusuf Nurkic, and possibly in Jerami Grant. This stuff from Shams being out there is because those agents want that out there. We're in March. When does the season end and those transactions can go ahead and take place again? We're 3 months from that.
Yeah.
So I think there's an order of operations. Again, I hate saying that because I feel like I've beat that drum so much. But that's what's going to happen here. The order of operations is the Blazers are going to see, was it May 22nd or May 23rd? I can never remember what it was. Is the draft lottery. It's a month before the draft. That is going to be a big, big, big decider on what ends up happening. If they land a top 2, top 3 pick, I don't know if they still pursue Jerami Grant.
Well, I think it would change things, obviously. And you know what? That's the thing that Joe Cronin's going to have figured out and ready to go is no matter what, he's got to be ready to pivot one way or the other. Now, I'm on that question specifically. Why can't you have Jerami Grant and Jabari Smith?
I think it's a little bit wonky with Jerami at the 3. Even though he's a 3-4,
sure,
I think he tends like this was the situation with Robert Covington. I had so many people when the Covington deal went down who were screaming at me, Covington's a 3, Covington's a 3, Covington's a 3, when he hadn't been a 3 for 2 years.
Right.
He was a 4-5, and that was what he ended up being here. They played him at the 3 for I think like 3 of the first 4 games, and it was like, that's not going to work. And they very quickly realized that. Jerami Grant, I think, is much more fluid as an athlete. Not nearly as heavy-footed, but I don't think he's perfect at that spot.
Dude, I think my roofers are going to come through my roof.
Listen, if we can get that on tape, that'd be great. Quick story real quick about that. Yeah. My parents redid their roof. They completely redid their house years ago. I came home on leave and helped them out. And my dad was running across these trusses like a jackass, just showing off. And he full-on money pitted. He fell in between and literally caught himself on the beams with his legs.
Oh, my.
Fell completely through the roof of what was in my sister's room. Thankfully, she wasn't in there in bed because he caved it in right over the pillow.
Jeez.
But he hit and he caught himself like this, and he's just like, oof. And I looked at him, and I go, you okay? And he's like, yeah. And then I went,
how much extra did that cost him?
I mean, it was a little bit extra. Like, I had to redo that whole roof because it was all textured roof.
Right.
But yeah, I listen, if somebody comes through that roof, the first thing I'm going to ask is if they're okay. But if their legs are dangling, I'm going to sit there like a child and laugh.
Oh,
tremendously.
I'm going to turn the camera too, and you're just going to see little legs like this. It's like,
Sorry, I derailed this there, but go on, Grant and draft. And
yeah. Well, this is my position right now. Like, I'm not refuting the wonkiness of it. Like, I'm thinking of Dame, Ant, Jerami Grant, Jabari Smith, and Nurk. Like, yeah, I get on paper how some people can kind of go, I don't know about that. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm just at a point where give me the talent. The talent is the premium. I'll take as much talent as Portland can possibly get. And if that means you don't get Jerami Grant because you got Jabari Smith, or it means you do get Jerami Grant and you don't give a damn you'll get Jabari Smith, cool. Figure that out. Chauncey has to figure some of that stuff out anyway. You can have lineups where Jeremy's the 4. You can probably play lineups where Jabari's the 5. Like, I don't want this team to sell itself short of getting that best player. The wonkiness of the fit, sure, it's going to be there. But, like, if they draft Jaden Ivey, I'm going to go, great, we got an incredible 6-man scoring option that's going to be Ja Morant 2.0. Like,
but you don't have any more size in your lineup.
No, you don't have any more size because he's 6'4". But, like, I want Joe Cronin to take best player. I want most talent here. And there's another question we'll get to or we won't. And I'll just say, like, there's not a timeline for me. I'm not on this, like, imaginary, well, you got to win the championship next year. If that's Dame's requirement, cool, that's Dame's choice. That's not how I'm viewing these things. I'm viewing these things as what's going to be the best viable option for the franchise for the next, 5, 8, 9, 10 years even, I think is how you kind of have to view a pick like that.
And I think that's fair. I honestly think that's. I think I find myself in that same boat where it's more about talent. I definitely have questions. Real quick, where do you fall on Jerami Grant, adding him to this team?
I like it. I don't know what other options you have player acquisition wise. If we're not talking about the draft, we're just talking about free agency, trades, all of that. Like, until we get more players that become unhappy publicly, I think Jerami Grant's the best you can do. Like, a contract's going to be a little inflated. He's going to have games where people get really pissed off at him. I think he's going to get some Nicholas Batum type love where it's like people really like him. And then he has nights where a lot of people sound off about him.
And you want him to do more.
And you want him to do a little more. But I think you have to take, again, the best player. And right now he's one of, if not the best players in the league that appears to be willing to come play with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons and the Trailblazers.
And I think that's the important thing here is that I hear a lot of they can't possibly spend this money. They can't overpay. Number one, it's Portland. You always have to overpay in acquisitions and to retain guys. But it's a matter of how much you overpay. Like if he gets up to $30 million, I'm definitely going to raise an eyebrow.
Sure.
But if he's at 24 to 26, I'm going to go.
What if he's 28? Because there's a rumor that it's 4 years for 112.
Yeah,
that'd be 28 a year.
Which
depending on how they structure it.
Depending again, especially if you backload it.
Sure.
Like, but Jerami Grant is a player. So I was digging into this yesterday. Do you know what the average amount of money a starting power forward in the NBA makes right now?
Ooh, on a salary yearly basis.
So just a heads up, your starting two guard is like almost $20 million.
Right. I'd say 20. I was gonna say 24.
You're smack on it.
Am I right on it?
Yeah, you're literally on the line. It's 24.2.
Yeah.
I was just doing a little bit of research on this, like trying to find what like equitable market value is for a starting power forward in the league on a non-rookie scale deal. $24.2 million. If you're at 25, 26 and you're Portland, can you really be pissed off?
No.
Considering the caliber of player you've had there since LaMarcus Aldridge?
Well, and if we're using the contract that's been floated, 4 for 112 at 28, I think you have to view it two ways. Portland gets taxed twice. They're one of the few teams in the league that gets taxed twice. You get taxed because getting guys to play for the Portland Trailblazers has proven incredibly difficult. And two, your state income tax on guys' salaries of that level.
Woof.
You have to make up the difference from where they could go and make 26 a year and be good to where you up it to 20. You got to do what you can to cut down some of that tax. So you're paying 28. He's walking away with what? 25? 20? What would the number be? I just think you're paying two different
No, you
types
do.
of tax.
That is a real thing. And for everybody out there, it doesn't make that much difference. Yes, it does. I have talked to the players exactly about this situation in Portland. And it is a detriment when coming to Portland. 100%. They have one of the most prohibitive taxes in the entire NBA. And you don't have a way to make it back like you do in California.
It's a league of athletes that
also when you're in California.
You can be on a beach and pay those taxes and feel a lot better than being in, rainy Portland, Oregon. But yeah. I don't know how big of a factor it is, but we're talking about a league full of players looking to make every possible dollar. You don't think they take that stuff into consideration?
Yeah, and agents are going to steer away from that because they get percentage cuts. Like this stuff all is, interlinked.
Yeah.
I want to take a look real quick because I couldn't remember where exactly that the salary cap fell next year. It's $121 million. So doing some rough math, let's go 24 divided by 121. So basically, starting power forwards in the NBA are on a $24 million contract is going to account for 20% of your salary on the actual cap. But when you're talking about luxury tax threshold, which is almost $148 million, significantly less. And that's the thing where the Blazers, they need to get some contracts back here on the books so that they can get above the cap. And so they can operate as an above-the-cap team going into next year where they can get their MLE and biannual to fill out the rest of the roster. And we've talked about this, like why it's not going to be just this season. But that's further down the road. But on Jerami Grant, on the whole, man, I feel like people have soured on him a little bit because his efficiency has been down in Detroit because he's been like a 43% shooter from the field. I think he's about 35% from three. But he's also been, 22, 5, and 4.
When he's looked at as like a virtual one.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. And it's not really what he's great at. Like he's better. Like mentally, I think he thinks he's a little bit more than he is, which I think that's another hurdle to cross. But also, when you've got multiple shot creators of Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons caliber alongside him, I think that puts him in a situation where he did not have that in Denver, where he was just asked to be a role player. Where here, if he was to join that version of a team, he could probably float the difference between Denver and Detroit. Like, with not being asked to be, stuck in the corner all the time versus being the number one option. And there's that comment that was out there that was put into I can't remember who had it. I think it was in Shams, where he wants to be X option. Like, he wants to be a featured primary option. That's agent speak for... Yeah. Do not try to trade for my client if you think that we're going to, be fifth in the pecking order and he's going to be your first guy off the bench.
Right.
That's what that is. That is not Jerami Grant saying unabashedly, I want to run an offense. Because here's the thing. All of this stuff and why there's so much smoke around Portland is simply because of this. The deal's basically done.
Oh, it's a done deal if that the Pelicans pick conveys.
Yes. Yeah. Barring a significant change in draft standing, compensation standing, that deal's done.
What do you think the number is that the Pelicans pick hits and Joe's not making that trade anymore? 7?
No.
6?
No.
5?
Because it really can't land outside of 9 anymore. Because
no. I'm talking about the Pelicans pick.
No, that's what I'm saying. It really can't, because if it moves up, it's only going to move up into the top 4 now, and it's top 4 protected.
Sure.
It's not going to land like 5, 6, 7, 8 anymore. Okay. It's going to land really between 9 and 12 probably.
Yeah, I mean, most likely. I'm just,
No, I get what you're saying. Just like mathematically, it's just it's not possible for it anymore to get into those other positions because they've gotten a little too far ahead.
So is your position most likely to me sounds more driven of you like the fit, but it's whether you like the move is going to be dictated on the terms of the next contract.
Yeah, really it is. And Brendan asked a good question. Would the extension run through the new TV deal? Yes, it would if it was a 4-year deal. And that's the same thing with Anthony Simons, where these deals at the back end of their deals could look relatively good if the new TV deal hits and the salary cap goes through another 18% jump.
Right.
Like, if that happens, then all of a sudden that deal on the back end doesn't look that bad. And I would almost guarantee that Joe Cronin is in ownership or operating under the understanding of what a projected salary cap is going to look like in those years, because those discussions on new TV deals it's already begun. For those that don't know, TV deals do not happen overnight, ladies and gentlemen. They go through years.
Yeah, that's
of
why they're like
negotiations.
7-8 years apart when they reach these
Yes.
deals, is because they need some time to negotiate the next deal.
They need time to negotiate it. The licensing, the language. These contracts are absolutely insane. And you have competing networks who have different goals, who want different games and different packages and all of these just different scenarios that play out that they all have to line up and everybody has to sign up on, everybody has to agree to, and it takes a very, 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 very long time. And so with that, you get a general idea of how things are going to look.
Yeah, I had a question on the Jerami Grant thing because I'd seen some Twitter discourse. And
Go.
Some people I follow that, disagree with going after Grant for the price range that's been rumored to him. And I guess my simple question to those people, since we're talking about this, is what's your alternative? If you're assuming the free agency class is what it is, and there's really not much player movement, it sounds like Bradley Beal might be traded. Some people speculating that could be on the move this summer.
I think that's almost done now.
Okay, that's fine. Bradley Beal out there. I don't know how that would fit with Dame Ant, Bradley Beal. That'd be really slightly different version. What's your alternative? Because, yes, Jerami Grant's probably going to make more money, just if we're talking about production-wise, than where his stats lie. I won't refute that. But, again, you have to pay to have a premium of player. And I know Jerami Grant's not everybody's top or even second. He's kind of in that third tier. Give me an alternative option. And it can't just be, well, you need that money, you fill in the roster. Okay, but how are you filling it in? You're not going to win with just every Josh Hart in the league. You need once in a while some all-star type talent. And again, Jerami Grant obviously hadn't reached that yet, but
he's also a Team USA guy.
But he's a Team USA guy. He's a Dame, friend. He wants to play here. I don't know. I kind of view this as we never get the alternative. It's a lot of I like this deal. Oh, I don't like this deal.
Or the short, reset, because it would be, because drafting a second player is you're punting on Dame. Because if you use that pick yourself, you're punting on Dame. Because they're just not, you can't have two guys that you need to hit. For a perfect example, look at the Warriors right now. Wiseman's
gone. It's Kuminga and
what do you mean? Kuminga's he's up and down. Moody is spent most of his time in the G League.
Yeah.
And
Wiseman can't even get healthy.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. You just can't rely on young guys to really hit. And I think you can rely on them to be effective.
Right. So what's your alternative option if it's not Jerami Grant?
And that's the thing is, I understand. Listen, I would love Jaylen Brown. I would love that.
That seems so impossible now that they're rolling.
Again,
they're going to be a 3 seed potentially.
I get it, but that's what I'm saying. I would love the situation where you bring in a guy that has 0 warts. When has Portland ever done that? You got Scottie Pippen, post prime.
And Scottie spent 1 season in Houston, and that was kind of whoa, what's going on there? But it was still Scottie mother effing Pippen.
Yeah. But it's
Damon after his first couple years in Toronto, his rookie,
and even then he's 5'10".
Yeah, right. There was a limit on it.
Yeah, so there's just never been an opportunity for Portland to really grab somebody outside of the draft, and I understand the need or the desire to want to do that, but you're punting on the Dame era, which I think is a lot of people argue that's the way to go.
You need Draymond to open up. You need Draymond and the Warriors to maybe fall a little short of what they expect.
Mm-hmm.
He had a thing yesterday. They lost, and he was like, "We're a bad basketball team right now." And I think that's a mixture of what you're talking about. You're playing youth. You can't count on youth, and then you're kind of just this mix of guys that sometimes you look great and sometimes you don't look very good. You need something like that to kind of go your way. Draymond Green to say, "Okay, I'm comfortable asking for a trade, and I want to go to Portland." Outside of that, again, we're not getting any options here, guys, and that's why I like Jerami Grant. It's because what else are we supposed to fill that roster out with?
And here's a good question from Rip Village at Rip Village: is there a single example you can remember where a TPE plus a pick brought significant value back to a team? No. And that's why if you look at this, you can kind of draw the God. These freaking painkillers are gonna kill me.
That'd be ironic too, by the way. How'd he die? The painkiller.
Yeah, it's the nose itch, man. It's just, please, for the love of God, stop. It's just funny that that TPE that was created is the exact same TPE that you need for Jerami Grant. It's very, very interesting that's how that worked out.
The number lined up exactly at the number you need.
Yeah. For where you don't have to include a single other thing. And that's weird. It's almost like the Detroit Pistons are trying to clear as much cap as humanly possible in order to be able to take on bad deals and get assets so they can continue their rebuild with Cade and whatever likely top 4 pick they end up with.
So you're kind of, as I talk this out, it sounds like you're kind of where I'm at. Like there's not another option. You don't have other options.
Listen, I would love another option to come up. Listen, if
I want more options too, but like
look,
give me
Phoenix goes sideways, and they're just not going to pay DeAndre Ayton.
That's so hard to see right now, though,
Again,
isn't it?
yeah,
Like
again,
they're the best team in the West.
Sure. But again, like things that you're looking for. One way I do see Portland looking is at Cam Johnson. Because I don't think they're going to pay him because they've got Chris Paul, because they've got Devin Booker, because they're going to pay DeAndre
Bridges.
Ayton. Yeah, they've already paid Bridges. They can't pay Cam. Portland would absolutely look at Cam Johnson, and then a Dame, Ant, Cam, Grant, Nurkic lineup.
What is Cam? He's 6'7".
He's 6'7".
6'7".
He might be 6'8". Actually, I don't mention it.
Yeah.
Because I remember him being a lot bigger than I thought.
How is that? No, I'm not nitpicking here. I would gladly take that lineup.
He is 6'8".
I'm strictly asking out of a basketball sense. What's that lineup defensively?
Very good.
Dame, Ant,
Cam, Grant,
Jerami
Nurkic.
Grant,
Yeah.
and Nurkic.
Yeah, Cam's an incredibly underrated defender.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I'm just more thinking. I guess I'm just kind of curious where Ant's going to go as a defender.
Basically, you're looking for Ant to be passable, Dame to not be a wet noodle, and then the other 3 guys to carry the burden. And you're looking at like the supersized, much better version of Harkless and Aminu.
Right.
That's really what you're looking at. You're looking at guys that can dribble, pass, shoot, and actually defend. They have actual skill sets, and you're bigger across the board. Like then you're 6'1", 6'4", 6'8", 6'9", 7 foot, and you've got 6'5" and 6'7" coming off the bench in Hart and Nas.
Well, and I'd even throw. It feels like every day we see some kind of breadcrumb that like Winslow might have some real opportunity at some minutes next year.
Yeah, and even though he's only 6'4", 6'5", he plays like he's 6'8".
He's a tough defender.
Yeah, he's tough as nails. But again, you're featuring a lineup kind of going forward that's just big and strong and tough and physical. And I like think about those names: Cam Johnson, Anthony Simons, Jerami Grant, Josh Hart, Nasir Little, Justice Winslow. Do any of those guys seem like subpar athletes to you?
No.
Is that a radical shift? Can they all dribble, pass, and shoot?
For the most part, yeah.
The Blazers are going to go from a team that had 2-3 guys who could dribble, pass, and shoot to a team that has 8 of them.
Yeah.
That's such a significant shift, and that's the thing. When I hear this pushback from people regularly, like, are they going to be a finals team? No, of course they're not going to be a finals team. Do you know what a finals team is? But do you know, like, what it takes to get to that level? You have to build towards this stuff. Milwaukee had to build towards this stuff for years, and then they cashed in. The Suns, they were dog shit for years before they had to build to this. If you get to a level of where you have competent NBA players up and down your roster, now you're just harder to beat in the playoffs.
You just want to give yourself the best shot. We can't care if we would classify the team as a title favorite preseason. Like, how many good teams in Portland have gone through a season without that label? And yet when you watch them and people watch that are closely watching the league, they notice those teams. And I think Portland would kind of be in that conversation of, oh yeah, they'll get back in the playoffs. And then they play, and then you hope they gel. And then when they gel, people start to go, damn, who wants to play this Blazer team?
They're going to beat you. Like, think about if they have the attitude that the young guys have displayed over the last 3 weeks.
They will, because Dame's going to be back next year.
Yes.
The's no way the team doesn't adopt the mindset.
Yes, and all of a sudden the give a shit is there with the talent.
Lesser talented teams than that group you just named have gone to a point that we don't think that they should have because they adopted the Damian Lillard mindset.
So you put that all together, and am I saying they're a great team? No. But are they better than they were under the Dame CJ backcourt? Yeah. They're fundamentally structured better.
And I don't think here's the only pushback on that. I don't disagree with the way it's built. I don't think people will fully agree with that until they can get
until they see it on the floor.
The West Finals.
Yeah, no, I get that, and that's always funny because of the way that.
No, I know.
But,
just
yeah, no, I know. Cursory
Yeah.
But they made the finals. Yeah, sure they did. Okay, cool. Cool. This is a good question. This is from Jakob. Just a guy on a hill. Right now, are you more or less confident in the Pelicans pick conveying in comparison to when we originally made the trade? The BI injury, the Pelicans playing okay, Lakers falling apart, a potential PG or Kawhi return for the Clippers. What say you? Are you more or less or about the same?
I'm about the same. I'd probably lean a little more confident that it's going to convey because Zion's not coming back, even though he's doing between the leg dunks. BI is out for a long time.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's done for the season.
I wouldn't either. And if that happens, we know that team ain't being carried by any player on that team to a playoff spot. I'm sorry. When
this trade went down, when we talked about once we got the protections, we did the live show. And the thing that I said is I'm about 70% certain that pick's going to convey. I think I'm probably the same spot. If I say maybe a little bit less, I'll say 65%. And it has nothing to do with the Pelicans, everything to do with the Lakers being a dumpster fire.
So you think LeBron and AD comes back? They got the Pelicans.
I don't know if AD is going to come back. That's the thing. Is like
he might not, and he might not last more than a quarter. But
listen, if AD comes back, it's the Blazers pick. If AD comes back, the Blazers are getting their pick because they don't have the ability to handle him if he's even remotely, if he's 80% of himself.
Yeah.
It's just kind of where it is. I don't know, man. I understand why they made the move. I understand what they were trying to do when they were trying to get everything there. But I am not fighting against the idea of, that pick not conveying. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. Let me scroll back through here. This is from Parker Davis at Parker D. Whole lot of numbers. If the Blazers get a top 3 pick, does it increase the odds of trading Dame and building around the pick, or do we trade the pick for an established player? Which I think is like an iteration of, pick Plinko, dropping it down the slot and seeing where it ends up. Which path did they take?
There's not, unless it's Joel Embiid demanding a trade from Philly to Portland, there's not a player that I want to give the top 3 pick up for that is realistic to me right now. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see the Jaylen Brown thing happening. Boston's really playing well, and I think they're at least going to win round 1, get back to round 2 and see what happens. No, this is the other thing that's frustrating, but like I kind of just baffled by it. Why is there this idea that if we get a top 3 pick, we're punting on anything related to Dame? Why can't that top 3 pick play with Dame? Why can't he have 2 years of playing?
Why can't Dame have nice things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of that way. Like, I get, guys, we want Dame to win a championship, but
I hate that. I hate that mentality. If I want Dame to go somewhere else and win a championship, no, I want him to win a title here.
Well, I don't think it's very popular, but I know it exists.
Oh no, it does, and it drives me insane.
And for years, so many of us rallied together and said Neil O'Shea is not building the proper team with Damian Lillard in his prime. And the minute they get rid of him, we're floating the idea that because we have a top 3 pick, we need to get rid of Damian Lillard. I'm sorry. Give me Jabari Smith, Anthony Simons, and Damian Lillard, and we'll plug the rest in and we'll figure it out.
Brennan asks, says, I'd strongly consider trading it if Carl wants out. I'm assuming he means Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, if Cat became available, then sure, I'm in.
Listen, if the Blazers landed a top 3 pick and one of this, let me go ahead and ask this question here because this is kind of like a way in this from Harry. Potential superstars who could become disgruntled over these playoffs over the summer. My list is basically, which I don't think is going to go this way because Minnesota's actually playing better. I think they'll falter in the playoffs because that's what they do. But Karl Anthony Towns, if he falls out. Jaylen Brown, if he falls out. If they don't want to pay DeAndre Ayton. Let me go. I had a little list going here. Where did I save that whole Word doc? If Levine didn't figure it out, I would maybe even look at that, or even DeMar.
And that's tough because their unfortunate thing is they can't beat the good teams, and part of the reason is because Caruso and Lonzo have been out for so long that they've lost so much of their defense, and that's why I can see scenarios. Nothing's impossible in this league, but like Ayton, I think Phoenix is at least getting to the West Finals. Ayton might not. I don't know where Sarver is going to be at paying wise, but we're going to give Yusuf Nurkic like $14 million a year, and then we're going to trade DeAndre Ayton and get him a monster contract. I think there's a lot in that. Jaylen Brown, I have a hard time seeing. Cat's a possibility. His fiance basically dropped a boy. Portland's really beautiful, but I think the way they're playing, the way he's playing, they're going to get to the playoffs. They're really close to the 6th seed, and they may falter in round 1. But I think it's easy to look around and go, all these guys are coming back next year. We finally figured this out. Let's build on that. Yeah. I would look at Cat as more of a next summer guy, and so I just don't see right now today the stars aligning where that pick gets traded for anybody in that caliber,
barring a massive letdown.
You need the Celtics to get swept in round 1. Jaylen Brown doesn't play well. The crowd turns on him. Boston media blames him. Like, this is what you need. I think if you want a player like that to be traded for that kind of asset.
Here's another question here from Mike Dennis at Banker Mike 747. What is the game plan if ping pong balls don't line up right? And I think he's saying, what if the Pelicans pick doesn't convey and the Blazers end up like 7th?
You may have to. It depends what you think is going to be available at 7. There are some people that still think this is only a top 5 player draft. Like, this isn't as deep as, like, I've been letting on now lately. Like, I think this draft is deeper. I could be way wrong on that. And so I think if you're in that position, I think you're aiming bigger, but I think ultimately you probably end up with Jerami Grant.
It's hard for me to believe that they would trade that pick because they need a cost control.
7 or 8.
Yeah, like, I still think they would use it.
So what are they doing? They're hoping Benedict Mathurin is there.
Then I think that maybe they take a look at one of their younger guys. Maybe it's Keon, and swap him for Grant in the TPE.
See if Detroit's willing to.
Well, actually, they couldn't do it because they'd have to do it in 2 separate transactions. Grant into the TPE and then send Keon in a second for a, super late protected second.
If you, I don't know. I think that's a really good question by Mike. I'm all in on keeping the pick. I just, in that scenario, that shitstorm of a scenario that he just laid out there, I could see everything in play for Joe. I really could.
Yeah, it's obviously this is like the darkest possible timeline. It's just nothing
it's the
conveying.
Blazers, so
I mean, okay, the same Blazers team that did get a Grego number 1 overall pick with a 5.2% lottery odds. So
how many players deep is this draft for you? Because 7 to me is still, you can get a good player at 7.
So 4 franchise element kind of guys.
Okay.
3, if things go right, low end all-stars. 2 or 3 no bullshit starters, and then some guys are going to pop around the rest of the draft. But I think that's about right.
So it could be about 9 to 10.
Yeah, when it's all said and done. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good draft.
I do too. I'm on the record of saying that. I just 7 or 8 or something like that. Like, yeah, that's the darkest scenario possible, and I could see Joe. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't trade it. Maybe he's not willing to do that. That he's not willing to say.
I don't think he trades their own pick.
You're right. I think you're right.
Judging by how they've kind of showed their hand at least a little bit on what they want to do, which is live in both worlds, they would find another way to get somebody else into that TPE because somebody else out there will want to dump a player between $18 and $20 million.
When I also think Griffin or Benedict's going to be available.
Oh, here's another option. Jonathan Isaac. Let me pull up his contract real quick.
Is he going to stay healthy? I don't know if you can.
But that's the risk.
Can you sell Portland on, we got a big man that's hyper athletic and good defensively, but can't stay healthy?
No. Okay. His contract's 17.4, and he just had hamstring surgery.
Yeah.
Which, again, you take a look at the medicals, but again, you're taking risks on guys. Yeah. You're taking to get a guy into the TPE. You have to have one of 2 things. You have to have a team like Detroit who is wanting to get off of somebody free and clear.
Yeah,
get off the books, no money in return. Remember what the Portland Trailblazers did basically to trade CJ McCollum was to take back the least amount of money possible. They did the same thing with Norman Powell and Robert Covington. They dropped a truckload of money off to get nothing in return.
Mm-hmm.
This happens. And so is Orlando in a position where, like, man, Are we done with Isaac? Are we just kind of want to sever ties and kind of figure it out? I don't know. Because he hasn't been able to stay healthy. Is Portland willing to take that risk? I think they're in a position where, yes, they're unequivocally in a position where they need to take risks.
What did you think of Ben and what he told us about thinking of 10 years from now, not just Damian Lillard?
Absolutely. And I don't go that far because I think 10 years is insane in the NBA.
But you get it.
But yeah, no, I think you do have to operate in different windows. And that's why I was saying just a few minutes ago, the whole idea of like operating in two different timelines. Because I think what Ben was hinting at there is like, Dame's not long for Portland. And I don't mean like, oh my God, he's leaving. I think there's a real chance he leaves in 2 years or a year and a half, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a real possibility. Be 32, 33 years old. Things just haven't kind of come together. And so... And then you've got, if you do move on with him, you've got Anthony Simons. You got whatever pick you take this year. You've got the young guys, and probably by then Nas under contract, and whatever haul you get from Dame move. And if you brought in Jerami Grant, you'd probably send him out too, and you'd be kind of like where the Pistons are right now, as far as like a young team with one guy in Cade and Portland with Ant, and a lot of questions, but you have a lot of capital. And you've got a lot of ways to go about things. And I think that's kind of where they would want to live. Like, I mean, listen, unless you're the San Antonio Spurs and you have multiple generational Hall of Famers that you have staggered through your timeline, that's the natural progression in, like, I don't know, man. I'm a big fan of just letting go. Like, when your window's over, your window's over, because when you try to claw and scrap and chase that, you know, you try to ride that bull one more time, you end up getting killed, and then you end up looking like the Lakers right now with just shitty contract after shitty contract after shitty contract.
I know, but you're probably, maybe you're not wrong philosophically, but I think what people hold on to is how many times did we think the window was closed for Dirk in Dallas? And look, Dirk is a better player, but Dirk had some years, man, where they were incredibly disappointing. And
but he also gave money back.
Well, sure, but I'm just saying in the general sense of windows closing, I don't know if we can fully say that when you have a player as talented as Dame. I think windows just change.
I'm saying 2 years after now.
Well, but who's to say the window isn't any more open than anywhere else he could go? Like,
absolutely could be.
Ant doesn't pop and they don't pick the right guy. AJ Griffin goes to 7, or he comes to Portland and boom, he's incredible. He's an amazing athlete and you get Jerami Grant, or you know what I mean? Like, I think it's so bad.
Is this glass half full, Brandon? What is this?
Well, yeah, because I've changed a lot of my thinking personally. I have to, because I want to be a decent golfer one day, and I think part of that is always seeing the bright side of things. And
it always comes back to golf.
It's a sickness. But I think for me though, Danny, it's just like, why can't this team be a great situation for Dame in 2 years? And I know you're not saying that they can't. I think what you're saying basically is if they don't look like they're that much closer,
yes,
that window. But I'm just saying, like, even if the window only opens, because let's say the window's shut right now, right?
If it opens a little bit, then I'm okay. Like,
even if it opens like this much, I think it's something to build on. And then that second year, what if it does open and you look around, you go, well, I could go to this team.
The Phoenix model, basically, of like, Dame becomes a Chris Paul-esque kind of guy where, yes, he's making a ton of money, but you've got a bunch of younger guys on better deals.
Yes.
You've got ownership, and here's the other thing.
Ownership's important.
Let's say ownership changes hands in 2 years.
LeBron becomes the owner, yes.
But you get an owner that just doesn't care, in the sense of, like...
They have an owner that doesn't care.
Well, no, I mean an owner that doesn't care about money at all.
Sure, you get a Donald Sterling.
Just no. I mean, spends money.
Unabashedly.
Oh,
in that way. Oh,
yes.
You're going the opposite.
No.
Yeah. Then
let's say they get an ownership that all of a sudden isn't cheap with assistant coaches.
They get a Cuban who's basically like, tell me what you need.
This is what I want to do. Like, this is my fun.
Yes.
And then you're not worried about that stuff anymore. And yes,
nope.
you certainly worry about luxury tax as far as implications of what it means for constructing a team and the mechanisms that it limits, not necessarily the dollar figures, because nobody should give a shit about billionaires spending money. Nobody should care. That's not what we're doing here.
Right.
But the machinations of what it limits, as far as the exceptions and the other things that you can actually go out and use, that's problematic. But the other part of that is going to be interesting to see kind of how these next 24 months, man, are going to be super, super interesting. Like just as far as like a holistically top-down, bottom-up kind of situation where like, yeah, ownership is like there's questions there. With personnel, there's questions there. Young guys, there's questions there. And I'm excuse me. I'm wholly excited for it because this last version of this team was stale as hell. So stale. And it was getting stale for 3 years. And now you have everything in front of you. And I've said this so many times, man, they could faceplant. They could absolutely eat shit on this. It could be bad. Like
they faceplanted already. Like the last regime led them to faceplant right now.
But I mean, remember how bad that was? It can get worse because you can lose Damian Lillard in a nasty way.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I'm not simply saying
it can always get worse.
But here's the thing I find interesting right now for this team at this time. That ownership group is currently going through two pretty like monumental moments where her football team just traded their best quarterback in franchise history. And her pivot is to a 70-year-old football coach who doesn't appear to care much about modern day offense. While in Portland, you have to start an entirely new rebuild while balancing both a franchise icon and deciding who is going to be the captain of that ship that steers them back into competitive balance. It's fascinating to me. It's kind of, yeah, like she is the one behind both of these current situations. And I don't know where both fan bases are at. Sometimes they're one and the same, but I think today it's just so interesting when you talk about ownership that she's heading both of these teams who are in these.
The post Russ comments were not great.
Well, one of the all-time greatest. I mean, I'm sorry, Matt Hasselbeck had a nice little cute run. There's nobody.
He's the best player in your franchise's history. It's not even close.
It's not even close. Like that, the disrespect in that.
What was it? He was there for 10 years and he made 9 Pro Bowls.
Yes. And the stupid thing they did was they had to pick between Russ and Pete, I think.
Yes, and she chose Pete.
Well, she had to. She signed into a 5-year extension. Like
weird. Where did we see that before? Did Neil O'Shea get an extension? Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Then they had to find a way to get out of it by firing for cause.
The Vulcan Enterprises are like a bad SEC athletic administration. They get one good win and they way overreact with contract extension. It's like, you know what?
Did you just call the Portland Trailblazers the Arkansas Razorbacks?
We'll give you a $25 million buyout because we believe in you. And the very next year it sucks. They go, shit, how do we get out of this buyout? Like you shouldn't have.
We paid how much for Jimbo? God. The Nason, if you were the GM this summer, we're trying to sell a potential player on Portland's nightlife, which of the fine gentlemen's establishments the city has to offer would you take them to lunch at?
Oh, a gentleman's? I mean, I'm always going to go Acropolis because I love steak.
I was just going to say, there's only one answer here, and it's Acrop, the steak bites. Listen, you're going for the food.
Although the one, what was the vegan one?
Casa Diablo.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're rebranding all of them, but the one next to the Acrop off 99, because I drive past it every morning, is now called the Vegan Box. It's a sports bar, booby bar.
Okay.
It's the sports box. It's a sports pun. You get it?
Jason, at Hecubus1, silly question time. With the Batman out now, who is your favorite Batman portrayal?
Oh, I haven't seen the new one yet. Have you?
No, I haven't. I haven't been able to leave.
I've heard good things. I
will say this unabashedly. I go in with my prejudices because I have a hard time seeing Twilight as Batman. Okay. It's hard to see Sparkle Face as Batman. I'm just.
Some people refer him more to Harry Potter than Twilight.
Really?
He's a pretty monumental character in that franchise.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. It's in one movie.
I mean, it's how we knew Voldemort was back, bro. He killed him.
Oh God. Here we go.
I'm getting a little nerdy with Harry Potter.
The one thing you'll actually get nerdy about.
I will withhold judgment on Robert.
Okay, a non-Pattinson Batman.
So a non-Pattinson Batman. I really did think character-wise, Bale played it the best. Although the only thing I thought got out of hand was by like 2 and 3, just got deeper and more ridiculous. You know?
Yeah,
Where's the trigger?
It's like, I don't think you really need to talk quite like that to convey your message.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Not full OG, but OG. I'm gonna go Keaton.
Okay, I would go Bale, Keaton, easy 1-2, no matter what order.
Clooney should have been so much better, but he was so bad.
Clooney was a mess, and I don't know if that was
Adam West was a better Batman by far.
Adam West is probably third.
Yeah.
I would actually go Clooney fourth and Kilmer 5, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh, see, I would have gone Kilmer above Clooney.
Kilmer was way too boring. He was too boring of a Batman for me. At least Clooney was either going to be really good or really
Just
bad.
Stupidly eccentric.
Yeah, Clooney was selling the comic book comical version.
Clooney was Danny Ocean as Batman.
Yes.
Whoever casted Ocean's 11 was like, I want the George Clooney that played Batman into Ocean's 11. That's who I want for Danny Ocean as Batman. That character.
I'm more looking forward to seeing Dano. Is it Paul Dano? Is that who the Riddler is in this one?
Oh, yeah.
I'm more seeing comparing him to Carries.
Okay.
Because those movies, they were still leaning into kind of
the very zany comic book as opposed to
comic.
real
Yeah, and then Nolan took it to the real world, and then we don't need to talk about Affleck because those didn't exist for us, for all I care. But it's more real world now than it was.
Mercer Brotherson says, you guys knew the names of those way too easily off the top of your head.
Oh, I love Batman. It's
no,
my
the strip
superhero.
clubs.
Oh, I mean, it was Splice.
Boom Boom Room.
You keep going. We got the Dolphin, the Dolphin 2.
Yeah, there's no shortage of iconic named clubs in Portland.
Most strip clubs per capita is our label. There's a reason we know the names. They're everywhere.
And if you've never been there, you've driven by them all.
There's the one on the way to JoJo off Powell. The what is that one? It's right next to Di Nicola's.
Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. God dang it.
It's like the Hoth Steel, or no, it's the what is the name of that facility?
God dang it.
Anyways, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and there's a bunch of stupid names everywhere. Here we go.
I used to go to City Limits when I was 18. It was the only 18 and older club.
Nope, not true.
Where else?
Jiggles.
Well, in my area, it was
Tualatin.
City Limits. Yeah.
R.I.P. Jiggles.
You're a West Side guy. I was
Yeah.
an East Side guy.
I still remember just that giant sign on I-5.
Never forget Jiggles.
The worst place ever. And now it's a Cabela's.
Now we got Cabela's.
So much better. This from Rip City at Rip City on the. Do you trade down if you move into the fourth pick? I mean, maybe one of the big three guys drops down but I think 4 is a tricky place to be for us, unless you were that high on Mathurin. I think him and Ivy will be stars, but Math could be great 2-3 off the bench until it's his time. I don't think you're moving down out of the spot because I think there is going to be
one of those players is going to fall to you.
Yes, I think somebody's going to reach for Ivy, and I think somebody's going to reach for Paolo.
Oh, the latest mock I saw from old Schmitzy, Duran could be one guys reach for too.
Was that from today?
No, that might have been 2 mocks ago, but Duran was 5 for him, and I was like, oh, Jalen Duran 5, okay.
Give me a second, I'll pull up the.
Yeah, get the latest one, but I had seen one 4 or 5 days ago, and Duran was 5th, and I was like, oh, okay. Which I understand, he's a 6'11" freak he's built like a man already. He just turned 18 years old, so. No, there is no way I'm trading out of 4 to go down. I want 4. And if that means Benedict Mathurin is the best prospect for them on their board, take him.
All right, so given his draft mock is Chet, Jabari, Paolo, Ivy, Murray, Sharp, Duran at 7 to Portland. Griffin, Davis, Daniels, Mathurin at 11 still. Interesting.
Yeah.
Trying to see if there's any other names that are really associated. Mark Williams, is 21st, which I'm still surprised he's that far out.
I think you got an Amazon package.
That's probably what that is because, my wife. Hold on one second. We'll yell.
Yeah.
My wife's getting her, so we're good. And let me take a quick look. Let me pull up the athletics real quick. Let me pull up Sam's.
Yeah. Pull up Sam's and see what he has. You don't trade 4 out. If it's Ivy, if it's Mathurin, if it's Griffin, take who you think is best. Who cares what the mocks say? Who cares what the pundits are saying? You're going to get in trouble if you listen to every one of those guys. Just if you think they're the best and you're at 4 and the other 3 go in the order which they will, take that player.
This was his big board, I want to say, a week ago. And he has got them in this group. So I like the way Sam does things because he groups guys together in kind of like their tiers, right? And he has Chet, Jabari, Jaden, Paolo, and Shaden Sharp. And that is a name that just keeps staying in this. So
Sharp, yeah.
Assume that Sharp is going to come out.
It appears he is.
The next group is Griffin, Murray, Duran, again at 8, Davis, 9, 10, Dyson Daniels. The next group is Agbaji, Sohan, Mathurin, Tai, Brown, Williams, Eason.
Yeah.
Which Sam has since written about Ben and basically has him in his top 7. We don't talk, or we talk about guys maybe getting a little too high on guys with NCAA performances, but Mathurin's name has skyrocketed with every scout that I've talked to. Because he's been not just that game, but this tournament. Like, even though he hasn't shot particularly well, he has taken the playmaking role and been decisive with what he wants to do. And it just got them into their offense and in big moments, obviously the pull-up threes, the rebounds in traffic, just been a dog. And I think that was the big thing is he going to be a dog when it matters?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a reason we talk about Benedict and not Bruno. You know what I mean? You got to go by prospects here, and the athleticism and the possibilities of a guy like that, while might not be resonating with other people the way it is with Sam, Joe. I think Joe's gonna have some good options at his table there. If he's in at 4, 5, or 6, I think Joe is gonna have some really good players to choose from. Even though it's not Chet or Jabari, which I think is everybody's kind of 1-2, you're still gonna have some really good options to pair with what this team could be next year.
Shaden Sharp's a 6'6" freak athlete.
Yep.
Absolute, probably the best athlete in the draft.
He's probably the most
explosive.
underrated prospect, I would say, right now.
Because he hasn't played.
Right.
And there's certainly questions about that. But this is a question from PNW Sports 503, and it kind of leads into where I want to go with this. Is in your interview with Jake Fisher, he mentioned that sometimes it's easier to recruit 2 stars. If we're assuming Grant is one of those 2, who are the other top contenders for the other star? And I don't want to necessarily talk about the 2 stars or the second star yet, because we won't know until things shake out. But it's something we haven't discussed. What if Portland is able to use that TPE and then facilitate another deal for another star? What if that ends up being the case? What if they are able to get another guy and keep that draft pick?
Yeah.
Then you're talking about that window you're talking about. Like, if you want to allow yourself to think, glass half full, or in this case, glass entirely full, that's still an option that's on the table.
Well, I think if that scenario were to play itself out, you're jumping for freaking joy.
Yes.
I mean, for Mike's question about doom and gloom and depression, shout out Mike on that one. You're basically going the opposite way. Like, what if everything breaks your way? You get 2 really, really good young or really good pieces, and then you still have the ability to draft a very good young player. Like, yeah, I think you're ecstatic of what the next three years could be. I really do.
And that's kind of what's crazy about this. And I've gotten a lot of this, and I got really irritated in the post game, but the live watch party the other day, about people saying, how much longer is this tank going to last? Because it's been 3 whole weeks.
Yeah, you really get frustrated.
It's just like, I hate dumb questions.
I think you need therapy.
That's beyond, but that's a real thing. But it's like, guys, that's not what this is. This isn't OKC. This isn't Detroit. You still have Damian Lillard. This is a little bit of a soft reset, a reboot. This isn't taking the computer and throwing it in the trash and going and buying a new one. This is unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah,
that's what this is. Let's see if we can fix some things, just a few tweaks. Let's uninstall the operating system and put it back in. It's not easy. And so this is kind of the same kind of along this same vein. And this isn't a dumb question. I think this is actually an important question. And the other question wasn't dumb. It just irritated me. At Reverend Romulus, will the Blazers jump right back into the tax next year, or do they try to hold out for one more year before going nuts? Is being a non-tax team remotely possible? No. they're going to have $60 million tied up between Dame and Ant alone. That leaves them $50 million to fill out the rest of the roster. Yusuf Nurkic is probably going to get $16 million a year. So 16, let's call that 65, 70 is what we're operating at between those three guys. Then you've got Josh Hart, $14 million. Well, now we're at 84. Okay. Justice, let's just say 5 just to round it up, even though he's only 4. And we'll just call it a 90. We're at $90 million between 5 guys. You've got Greg Brown, who I think is at $1.5 million, so 91.5. Trendon's been converted. I think he's like, 2.5. So now you're at like close to $95 million. You have, $15 million to fill out the roster, and you only have 3 starters. You add Jerami Grant to that, even into that TPE. Guess what? Now you've hit it. You're operating as above the tax team. Oh, by the way, you also have a $20 million cap hold with Joe Ingles. Bing.
That's another, that's another player that like I know he's coming back. It sounds like, but like I don't process him every time we talk about next year's.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, that's right, Joe Ingles.
Because he'll be back late. Like he'll be back like at the midway point.
And he's gonna be back in Portland tonight.
Yes. Yeah, and he keeps tweeting about it like he's always back in Portland.
He's doing a lot of PR, which I find to be a little interesting, to say the least.
Well, he's probably also playing the smart move of like, I'm a good guy to have on your team, community. Come give me my paycheck. You know what I mean? Like he's coming off an ACL injury here.
Which is kind of the right way to go things. This is a question from Scott at ScottPTB30. Is Miles Turner to Portland dead now with the likelihood that Nurk will sign an extension? If they get Jerami Grant, adding Turner seems like an even better fit. Well, yeah, but the Pacers appear to have made their decision by trading Sabonis and keeping Turner, which I still find a little interesting. But I don't think that, because at that point in time, basically doing a sign and trade with Nurk for Turner, which I don't know if that's necessarily the way that Indiana would want to go. But
no, I think the Turner thing's dead.
Yeah, I do too. And they were looking around, but
Nurk's going to be their starting center. I've looked past, Dame I know is going to be at the 1. They're going to run Ant at the 2. And I know Nurkic is going to be at the 5. Like, that's mentally where I'm at right now. You're filling in the rest of that roster, and you're kind of plugging to see what you want to play with.
I think that's kind of where we're at. So speaking of where we're at, we're at a little over an hour now. So what I want to kind of keep these at is at an hour. So again, thank you everybody for being here. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. We are just short of 3,000. Let's give the not live number right now. I think we were like 15 short. Yeah, we're 13 short right now.
Come on.
2,987 short of our season goal of 3,000 subscribers. Thank you all so very much. Again, share us with a friend, share us with the family. Do whatever you can to help us grow the show. If you're watching here live or if you're watching on the replay, please click subscribe. It's free. It's easy. If you want to join the watch party, if you want to take a part in the exclusive interviews like we had with Ben Golliver, if you want to become a member, if you want to get included in our giveaways, which Eric Marantetti should be getting his Nick Batum jersey today because I'm an idiot and I didn't ship it until yesterday. Dear. It was just sitting there. It's hard for me to get to a post office, okay? But I did ship it to him yesterday, so hopefully we get a confirmation that he's got his autographed Nick Batum jersey. And I've got a whole heap of swag that I want to kind of give away here in the next group. And we also will have the draft lottery party. We will have the draft party on site. I've got it narrowed down to a couple different locations now. I'm talking to some folks, and hopefully we can get that locked in and done and taken care of. And then we can actually have people come out. Be cool.
Yeah. No, I we didn't do yesterday. I got home a little later and I thought Danny was exhausted from PT while we're running today. But
got my ass kicked at PT yesterday.
Well, I we all went over to get a crunch wrap from Ricky, and he said he sold out in like the first hour and a half, and I'm like, cool. This was it's fantastic timing by me, but it was really good news for him, and it was cool to meet some listeners yesterday, hanging out, having a good time, just supporting some local business. Yeah,
and shout out Ricky, who hooked me up with some spicy nugs from JoJo the other day. Those things are heavenly.
Well, Ricky owes me now. He only hooked me up with a high five.
I made the trip out there when I went to the Gonzaga game, so I had a lot of extra time. Like, listen, if I'm driving this far, which
you want to eat good food.
I was like, it was between that and Frank's Noodle House, and I was like, I want to get super fat, so. Marissa, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you to everybody out there. We love you. We appreciate you. And again, like, rate, review, subscribe. Get us wherever you get podcasts. Remember, we're not just on YouTube. We are available wherever you get podcasts. And again, if you're on Apple, iTunes, whatever the hell it's called these days, please leave us a review, good, bad, or otherwise. It helps us beat the algorithm. Until then, we will catch you guys here for the watch party. I don't think we're going to do a post-game tonight. Very unlikely. If we do, it'll be a quick kind of summation of everything that's happened over the last couple games, which isn't a whole ton. So, with that, thank you all so very much. You can find us on social media at Jacked Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. Email the show, jackedramsays@gmail.com. Until then, take care. Enjoy, folks. We'll catch you guys tonight.